GIS, Agriculture Production Commissioner, Additional Chief Secretary, and Department of Agriculture and Farmers Empowerment. Sir, I welcome you to this session. All the chairmen of different sessions, sir, they will be presenting the summary presentation in this particular session. And apart from that, sir, will be joined by Dr. Ajmer Singh, Director of Research from PAU, Punjab Agriculture University. He is the Director of Research. He will also be with us in this session. And we are also joined by our KBKs, our departmental sister institutions, ICR institutions, OUAT officials, NGOs, FPOs, so many people, stakeholders we are attached with, sir. And I welcome you, sir, once again to this valedictory session. And with only with your kind permission, we can start this session, sir.
Kindly go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir. With your kind permission, sir, may I invite Dr. Pawan Kumar Agarwalji, Honorable Vice Chancellor, OUAT, for the summary presentation of the first technical session, sir. And the first technical session was Research Technological Farm Mechanization Interventions in Crop Diversification, sir.
Honorable Chair, all the esteemed dignitaries and friends and organizers. Sir, morning we had inaugural session and followed by technical session 1. So I'd like to brief little bit in a very brief the deliberations made during the first 2 sessions. During the inauguration, it was Sri Subham Saxena, Joint Secretary, started an introduction, followed by Dr. Man Singh, Directorate of Rice Development Partner, who emphasized for the, I hope I'm audible. I'm audible, sir. Audible, sir. I'm audible.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Followed by Dr. Man Singh, Directorate of Rice Development Partner, who emphasized the importance of crop diversification. And also he talked about the soil productivity, sustainability, nutritional security. And he also talked a lot of different Government of India programs related to diversification and nutritional security. I had some observations related to the diversification, nutrition, income and livelihood of Odisha farmers. Odisha is that bestowed with 10 agroclimatic conditions with a lot of variations. Whole country has 17 agroclimatic conditions. So Odisha has a lot of opportunity for diversification. And in spite of 10% plus diversification in last 50 years, still we are with surplus rice, and without sacrificing the rice requirement of the state, we can diversify to vegetable, fruits, oilseed, pulses. And oilseed is a very important commodity for Odisha, for India, because we are very short of oil production. Then a video was presented on crop diversification program Mega Lift irrigation project of Government of Odisha. And the meeting ended with a vote of thanks by Dr. Rohit Kumar Lenka, Director of Horticulture, Government of Odisha. It was followed by technical session 1, where first talk was given by Dr. Sahu, Dean Research OUAT. He talked about different cropping system, cropping pattern, and technological availability. Like this year, OUAT released almost 12 plus crop varieties, 2 machines, and many other related technologies. So that was brief that was given by him, and also 2 mushroom new strains were also narrated by him. He want to impress, and we are all over convinced that lot of technological backstopping is available, and a lot of things are going on which can support our diversification program in the state. It was followed by Dr. D. Pramila, Director Atma, Andhra Pradesh. She highlighted the diversification of crops both in rainfed district and low rainfall district of Andhra Pradesh. She also emphasized diversification of crops like mango, banana, cashew in that state. And she talked a lot of interesting things which is not there in other states. For example, she emphasized for 8.85 lakh hectare of fallow land, which is available in Andhra Pradesh. Also, she gave a lot of importance to millet, then one district, one crop model. Of course, that is operated in Odisha also. And one good thing she talked about the small and marginal farmer having a lot of diversification of crops and other commodities. Dr. J.P. Narayan, Joint Director Agriculture Bihar, emphasis for crop diversification Bihar. Particularly two things he talked. One is multi-crop seeder with auto depth control, and one is harvester for pulses like lentil and gram. One good thing came from their experience is diversification of paddy and wheat to maize and vegetable. Maize is a crop of choice for many states, even Punjab, for that sake. Dr. R.K. Naik from Raipur, he talked about diversification of Chhattisgarh. He emphasized for zero tillage machine, particularly wheat sowing after paddy. He stressed for development of custom hiring center. Odisha Krishi Samruddhi policy give a lot of emphasis for this, and this is one of the crucial factor for horticulture revolution or horticulture diversification in Odisha also. Dr. M.K. Sinha, Deputy Director Agriculture from Jharkhand, he highlighted the frequent drought due to late onset of early withdrawal of monsoon. He emphasized for crop diversification from paddy to pulses and oilseed. He also talked about zero till machine sown in Rabi wheat crop. Popularization of mini tractor. Many of the states where plains are available, we go for big tractors. But state Jharkhand, a big part of that state, they emphasize mini tractor. That is very important. Solar-based drip and sprinkle system. Of course, other state also will do the same thing. Dr. Mukhopadhyay is a professor agronomy from West Bengal. He talked about Mati 60, a popular program of government of West Bengal. And he also talked about crop diversification with more success in small and marginal farmers than big farmers. That is experience we saw from West Bengal. That experience may be there in other states also. Probably that needs more deliberation. And at the end, I had occasion to make a small observation. And as usual, I emphasized that even if we have diversified to some limited level, but crop diversification for production, productivity, food security, nutrition security, livelihood, and income, that has to be seen in a holistic way, and we must work very hard to do that. Odisha Millet Mission is a very good success story for the whole country, and Odisha Krishi Samruddhi program also give lot of emphasis to mechanization, new technology, diversification, livelihood, income, everything. So experience of all the state, each other can take us further how the diversification should happen. Our farmers can dream the best possible what other people can dream, and agriculture should be one of the mainstay not only for sustenance but for a better income and better livelihood. With this, I thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thanks to the chair, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, sir, for your brief presentation, kind presentation. For the technical session too, role of horticulture in crop diversification. It was chaired by Sri Rohit Kumar Lenkaji, Director of Horticulture. May I request you, sir, to have the summary presentation, please?
Okay, thank you. Good evening, sir. Our respected chairman and all respected members present in today's regional thematic workshop. Sir, we had the second session on role of horticulture in crop diversifications, and the panel members were Dr. G. Acharya from Chase, then representative from Andhra Pradesh and West Bengal, then representative Mrs. Pooja from Bihar, then Neeraj Saha from Chhattisgarh, and Vijay Kumar from Jharkhand. Basically, sir, all the panelists, they emphasized on the practice being implemented or adapted in their respective states with respect to the promotion of horticultural crops, both vegetables and fruits under this crop diversification program. And they also shared their learning experience from these crop diversification program implemented under different schemes supported by their state governments. Based on their feedbacks, we have just sorted out some of the points which would be beneficial for us to giving a final shape to this diversification of crop program. The number one is with respect to bringing diversification in cropping pattern, cropping systems, and crop rotation. So this was flagged by Dr. Acharya. He was of the view that it's not only means adding some horticulture crops in the existing cropping pattern, but also the cropping system has to be changed, and at the same time also we can introduce horticulture crops in crop rotation systems. Then the second point was diversification in forest ecosystems. Basically, sir, as far as the laws of forest concerns, these forest laws do not allow any plantation crops to be taken up in forest lands, and these were the situations prior to launch of this Forest Rights Act. But after having this Forest Rights Act in action, then Government of India has also allowed maximum of 4 hectares lands per family in forest to forest dwellers as well as other traditional forest dwellers. So now we have a better scope to exploit this land where these forest dwellers have been assigned with an area of up to 4 hectares per family. And in addition to their traditional practices of agriculture like raising paddies and other things, we can also go for these vegetables and fruit crops, which was otherwise denied under this act. So this is one area where we can give emphasis for further promoting expansion of areas under these fruits and vegetables and other horticultural crops. Then the third point was with respect to niche and exotic crops. There are crops which actually traditionally has been a part of our life, but by shifting to some other way of cultivations, we have neglected those niche crops. And now Government of India has also come up with introducing 10, promoting 10 niche crops, and also allowed for cultivations of exotic 10 exotic crops in India. So this has really broadened the vision of crop diversifications, where new crops, which otherwise we depend on other countries for our needs, we can now promote it in our country. Then the fourth one was with respect to awareness and capacity building. This was from the Bihar because based on their experience under this crop diversification program implemented in their states, once we go for this crop diversification program in states, we must be in a position to make the farmers who will be adopting this particular practice. Unless otherwise they are aware of this particular practice and their capacity is not built up to the tune we expect, then this program may not succeed. So before launching this crop diversification program, awareness as well as capacity building along with hand-holding support has to be provided to the farmer beneficiaries. The next point was assistance and market linkage. When we talk of these horticulture crops, basically the cost of cultivation or package of practice is very high as compared to our traditional field crops of agriculture. So the assistance in form of subsidy provided under different states, in these 5 different states is varying from state to state. And we have seen in case of Bihar, there are crops, particularly exotic crops and niche crops, where the government of Bihar has provided assistance to the tune of 100%. And most of the cases, the assistance provided to this horticulture fruits and vegetables is minimum 50%. So that way, we can look into it, the assistance being provided under different schemes for this promotion of horticulture crops must be increased to the extent that cost of package demands. Then the next one was technology-based crop diversification. At present, even if states we adopt diversification of crops by introducing the horticulture crops in the traditional field crop areas, but it is not being driven by technology. So technology is one area where this crop diversification can be propelled further. Then the next point was with respect to soil health. Once we are introducing new crops like horticulture, fruits and vegetables in areas which are traditionally being accustomed with agriculture field crops, the soil health status of the soil has to be taken into consideration. And before launching, we must be double sure that the health is sufficient enough to sustain these horticulture fruits and vegetables. Then the next point was with respect to irrigation. So water is essential for every crop. And once we are thinking of diverting means paddy areas to non-paddy areas or any field crops to horticulture crops, then naturally will these horticulture crops, they will be requiring waters, and for that it should be assured. Next one. Then the next point was with respect to vertical and horizontal aspect of crop diversification. This aspect has been discussed in almost all the sessions, where the present focus on horizontal expansion of crops by introducing horticultural crops is one way. But there are also aspects where these horticulture fruits and vegetables can be augmented vertically also. So that way this crop diversification program can be further fortified. Then the next point was exploring new crops for new areas under crop diversification program. This was particularly from West Bengals, where they used to explore new areas for new crops. Once they introduce some new crops, even if this is a niche crop or exotic crop, doesn't matter. But once it is a new to that area, so that that area should be agroclimatically suitable for adoption by the farmers. Then remuneration based crop diversification, already we have discussed this one under this subsidy assistance and market linkage. So these are the areas where the remuneration being offered under this crop diversification program must be to the expectation of the beneficiaries, farmers, so that they can easily adapt, they can easily diversify their crops from paddy to non-paddy areas. Then from Andhra Pradesh, we had one learning skill-based training for unskilled rural youth. Once the area under crop diversification is saturated with horticulture crops or horticulture crops, then the rural youth, as the agri entrepreneurs, they must be trained to upgrade their skills, so that the post-harvest handling of produce or the processing or any value addition to the products, that can be carried forward in a better way. And at the same time also this youth can be employed sustainably. Then the last point was institutional and infrastructural requirement for crop diversification. This is one learning which will be accepted by everybody, because we need a concrete institution mechanism. Then we must have sufficient infrastructure to support this crop diversification program. It is not only related with the field that we want to diversify, but at the same time also the post-harvest infrastructural requirements as well as institutional mechanisms that will work in a big way to carry forward this produce to the terminal markets, to the consumers at the last, to the value-added products. Thank you, sir. This is from my session, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so very much, sir, for such a nice presentation and crispy presentation. Sir, I have been informed by my teammates that we are lucky and privileged to have the Chief Secretary, Honorable Chief Secretary of Government of Punjab with us, Sri Untitled Chapter Ji IAS with us, sir. With your kind permission, sir, I welcome Tiwari ji to our midst, sir. We are blessed to have our midst, and I would like to continue with the presentation process, and at the end we'll seek the blessings of the senior most people, sir. Thank you very much, sir. May I now request Sri Subham Saxena ji, IAS Joint Secretary of the Organizing Department, for the summary presentation of post-crop diversification, importance of food processing and agro-industries, sir.
Thank you. Respected Chair, respected Chief Secretary Punjab, and other eminent dignitaries present in the workshop. So the technical session 4 was regarding the crop diversification, post-crop diversification, importance of food processing and agro industries. The panelists were Dr. S.K. Dash, Dean CAET Bhubaneswar, Joint Director Horticulture Bihar Shri A.C. Jain, Dr. S. Patel from IGKV Raipur, from West Bengal Dr. Ashutosh Sarkar of UBKB, and from Jharkhand Shri Mukesh Sinha. So on the basis of the deliberation and discussions, First, Dr. S.K. Das discussed about the importance of food processing industry and quality management systems and the challenges faced by the food processing sectors. As crop diversification is a key determining factor for farmers in this regard, he talked about the proper post-harvest management of agricultural commodities and about the different challenges faced by the food processing sector. And the overall schematic framework also he dwelled upon by under the PMFME scheme, how incubation centers have been promoted in the in Odisha, and the handholding support that the scheme has been providing. From Bihar, we heard the importance of uh, importance of the policy intervention that the government of Bihar has taken up by the Bihar Agribusiness Investment Policies and under PFME scheme and the Agro Infrastructure Fund in Bihar. So how they are, Bihar is leading makhana producer, and how they have got the around rupees 1500 crore rupee consumer market potential for the makhana products. Apart from that, they also dwell upon the potential regarding maize and lychee, honey, jamun, and how they are taking proactive steps for proper agro processing of these products. Similarly, from Chhattisgarh, Dr. Patel discussed about how Chhattisgarh is transforming itself from a monocropping system as far as paddy was concerned to more crop diversified state by promoting maize, millets, fruits, and vegetables. And they also discuss the importance of diversification and processing of non-timber forest produce like chironji, harda, bahada, and how they are taking it forward. And flower production in the state has also attracted market in other urban market and as well as the Raipur. Similarly, he discussed about the Gothan system in villages where how small scale processors are encouraged to have machines for primary processing in production catchment area. Government of Chhattisgarh has also allocated funds for incubation centers in tribal areas of the Chhattisgarh state like Ambikapur and Jagdalpur. Similarly, he discussed about the issues that the SHGs are facing in the sector. From West Bengal, Dr. Ashutosh Sarkar discussed about the difference between industry-induced diversification and the diversification-induced industrial development. So from these inputs, we have from these inputs, we some specific points we have come across. So a strong and dynamic food processing sector basically plays a vital role in creating and meeting the market demand, reduction in wastage of perishable agricultural produces, enhancing shelf life of food products, ensuring value addition to agricultural produces, generation of employment, and enhancing income of farmers, as has been told by the various panelists, and creating demand for the export of agro-based processed food, as has been shown by the Bihar model. Some of the key challenges, those are being faced by the processing sector as deliberated upon were, there is a gap in supply chain infrastructure, inadequate primary processing, storage and distribution facilities. Here, the Andhra model of community godowns and cold chain storage, cold chain points, it is a very good model to be followed. Then there was an insufficient connection between production and processing. The third important challenge was seasonality of operations and low capacity utilizations. So here, the whatever infrastructure that has been created, it has to be created in terms of the marketing linkages that it has got, the potential that the produce has accordingly. Otherwise, the utilization of the capacities that has been already been created is not up to the mark. Then there is an institutional gaps in supply chain, because there are many places where the intervention of the state is required to fill those supply gaps. Then on the basis of the deliberations, various strategies that have been followed by these states, these are almost all the all the panelists, they discuss about the one district, one product model that has to be that has to be followed in cluster-based approach, hub and spoke model. So in Odisha also it is being followed. Then crops specific post-harvest management and value addition techniques to be strengthened. In this, most of the panelists discuss about the regional variations and the need of the region and the local farmer community. That has to be taken into account. At every stage of post-harvest management and processing, value can be added to the product for which it can be stored and preserved. Here, the role of the overall policy framework and the more community-based approach has to be taken up. And in this regard, the Andhra model was, they have discussed about Andhra model also, and how communities can be mobilized for optimum utilization of these processing structures. Then there was one specific points regarding the technologies that are being developed. Though these are being underutilized because of the non-implementable scale of the technology. So the technologies are being created, but because these are not being more scalable, so more farmers are not being able to take benefit from that. So then the next study, what the markets to be clearly defined. Here the example of the floriculture that has been taken up in Chhattisgarh is a good example how they have defined the markets, and accordingly they have mobilized the farmer community to produce the particular kind of flowers. So first forward linkage is being tied up, then they have gone for the production. Then technology should be scalable. We have already discussed about it. The policy should be framed for incentivization of the new food processing industries and assistant to existing processing industries. Here, the example of Bihar industrial policy, where the incentivization for the new food processing industries has been emphasized upon. So, sir, this was from my side the deliberations and the summary of the deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for nicely sorting out different issues, your keen observations, and finally pinpointed presentation, sir. Thank you once again. Sir, with kind permission, may I now request Dr. P.K. Raul, MD, Apical Bhubaneswar, to please present the summary presentation for the session role of MSP and markets and the role of farmer producer organization, farmer cooperatives, and other stakeholders in crop diversification, sir.
Respected Chair of this valedictory session, the Chief Secretary of Punjab Government, dignitaries and delegates, I bring to your kind attention about the summary points that was discussed during the fourth session devoted for role of MSP, market and farmer producer organization, farmer cooperatives and other stakeholders in crop diversification. Sir, this session was presented with 6 presentations, 6 speakers from equal number of states. They took part in the discussion. Next slide, please. And the key takeaways of this presentation of this session was emphasis was given on 3P support for crop diversification. This 3P support, next please, primarily looks at policy, that is for pricing, market as a platform, and also FPO as a players. These are the 3P stands for policy, platform, and players. And remunerative support price for focused crop brought under diversification. This was also opined by many speakers. Strengthening of FPOs and similar farmers organizations for economy of scale through their collective approach. Farm mechanization and use of most updated technologies like drone technologies, etc., that can be affordable by the FPOs through their collective approach. Integrating more and more FPOs with e-NAM platform that will have their more bargaining power. Digitization, a way forward to minimize the middleman intervention involvement in agri-marketing system. Liberal licensing system that can promote interstate trading of agri commodities also. To do away with multiple mandi tax if a commodity moves from Nuapada district to Chhattisgarh, then as per their statement, twice they are paying Mandi tax for interstate trading of agri commodities. We may look into it. Setting up of food processing industries in the production catchments that will help in encouraging production and also processing. And more particularly, infrastructure was rightly pointed out, and for that, convergence of ongoing schemes for a rural infrastructure development to promote crop diversification. Sir, these are the 10 key takeaways of the session 4. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for very neatly and very shortly presenting the takeaway points, sir. On behalf of organizers and with kind permission of Chair, I profusely thank you for your kind presentation, sir. So again, with your kind permission, may I now request for summary presentation of the last technical session that was on animal husbandry, allied sector, and their roles in crop diversification, which were chaired by Dr. Soumendra Nanda, Dean of College of Fisheries, Rangelunda, UAT. May I request Dr. Nanda to please present the summary of that particular session.
Esteemed Chairman of this session, the esteemed Chief Secretary, Government of Punjab, the galaxy of scientists, delegates, and dignitaries present in this platform, Honorable Vice Chancellor, OUAT, Dean's Directors of OUAT, ladies and gentlemen. So, under this animal husbandry and allied sector, role of crop diversification, so the first deliberation was made by Dr. G.K. Tripathi, Joint Director, Animal Husbandry and Veterinary Science. He emphasized on the vertical diversification in animal husbandry sector due to limited land holding, where this sector can act as a cushion against natural calamities that the state encounters very often. Further, the mixed and integrated farming system with animal husbandry can be a very profitable and sustainable option in rain-fed situations in Odisha. Further, he opined unified insurance packages covering all aspects of agriculture can be taken up for risk management. Promotion of backyard poultry enterprise, especially in tribal dominated areas, have been quite successful in Odisha. The value chain approach for extension of marketing of animal products needs to be taken up in the present scenario. Next, the presentation, it was by Dr. Rohini Pathak, veterinary surgeon from Chhattisgarh, presented different government initiatives like Gothan scheme, which is a multidisciplinary center focusing on mixed farming models. And the government of Chhattisgarh has specifically targeted the small and marginal farmers through micro schemes like 2 cows with 50 to 66% subsidy and 10+1 goat scheme with 25 to 33% subsidy. Backyard poultry schemes with Kadaknath, ducks, and quails have also been implemented. Professor Ashutosh Sarkar, ADR, Uttarbang Krishi Vishwavidyalaya, emphasized on input-based support in goatery, duckery, piggery, and fishery for crop diversification. There may be diversification of conventional crops for fodder and maize, which can be helpful for dairy sector. Community fisheries as a source of irrigation have been considered in West Bengal. Mr. Sabyasachi Das, RRA network, also focused on diversification of traditional crop for fodder and management of common public land and pasture, which can support extensively reared animals. Mr. Jayaprakash from Vasan focused on
community fisheries along with integration of a fruit or horticulture crops with banana or papaya in underutilized lands have been remunerative in coastal Andhra Pradesh. Dr. Sunil Kumar Das from Vasan delivered that moringa can be a very good option for animal feed as it is rich source of protein, vitamins and minerals. Cultivation of diversified leguminous crops like subabul can be used for molasses block preparation for these small ruminants or the goatry. And this is the summary of the presentations, deliberations made under this animal husbandry and allied sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Nanda, for nicely covering the real allied sector and animal husbandry sector that is attached to agriculture and can the one and inseparable part of it. Thank you so much, sir, for this kind presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we are fortunate to have in our midst the Director of Research of Punjab Agriculture University, Dr. Ajmer Singh Harji. Sir, may I, with kind permission of chair, request you to please speak a few words of guidance in this particular thematic workshop. Am I audible, sir?
I am audible, sir.
Yes, sir. Sir.
Thank
Very
you,
much,
thank you, thank you, Chairman, sir. Honorable Chief Secretary of Punjab, Shri Untitled Chapter, ji, galaxy of administrators, scientists, extension workers, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you giving me this opportunity to interact in this session. In fact, this is the fourth thematic workshop held at Bhubaneswar. Previously, first workshop was held at Chandigarh, then at TNAU. It was followed by Jabalpur, now at Bhubaneswar. So the purpose of this workshop is to develop a strategy for diversification for whole of the country under the chairmanship of Shri Honorable Tiwari. So our whole team is associated in all the workshops. So in fact, basically, why the need is arised for diversification. The reason is that how we have to proceed for this. At the onset, we were in dire need of food grains, and our all policies, research work, extension work was focused to produce wheat and rice in whole country, and particularly in northwestern India, the more focus was given. But now this monoculture or of these two crops is posing us many problems, particularly the depletion of natural resources, particularly the water, which is the lifeline of all living things. So for that, we have to think that how we should proceed. Basically, our cereal food need is now we have sufficient grains. Now need is to diverse to oil seed, to focus on pulses, maize, fruits, vegetables. So like that, in fact, India is a diverse country for different agroclimatic conditions, and we are blessed with we can grow all sort of crops right from Himalayas to the downstream of the countries. The need is to identify the area which are specialized in production for quality produce, of a particular commodity. If we identify those and give a policy or give a thrust right from technological intervention to marketing, marketing may be the indigenous, marketing may be the exotic. So we must have a database for that, that which crop is to be produced where and where we have to sell it. Then we can proceed further to make a mark in the diversification plan of the country. The diversification need is also to diversify our income resources, because dependence upon one crop commodity, always we are at risk. So if our grower, our farmer is remain at center stage in the diversification plan, so we can make a good lead in this pattern. So to strengthen the diversification plan, I think as we have started with the Green Revolution, we gave thrust on research. We have to diversify our research programs also on the crops which we want to bring forward. So further, then the policies have to be followed. So these are my few points. In fact, our Chief Secretary is there. He will give I think, precise concluding remarks for all of us, and we will follow those. Thank you very, very much for giving me this.
Thank you so much, sir. Your presence was not only glittering, it was also, we are quite delighted to have you in our midst. And thank you for your guidance and suggestions, sir. Thank you so much once again on behalf of organization, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, this is definitely a proud privilege in my part and in all our part to have the company of Honorable Chief Secretary in the Government of Punjab, Sri Anirudh Tewari ji, IS. He is with us today. We are fortunate to have with him. With kind permission of Chair, sir, can we have few words of blessings from you and few words of guidance?
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My colleague officers from agriculture departments of different states, agriculture professionals, VCs of the universities, academicians, practitioners, good evening to you all. And it is my pleasure to be part of this regional thematic workshop on diversification of crops. As you people are aware, the Government of India has set up this committee and has tasked us with preparation of a report that would recommend the strategy for crop diversification across the whole of the country. When this matter was discussed by the Ministry of Agriculture with me, so what I thought was that it would be unfair for us to not hear what the other states have to say and concentrate only on the green revolution areas where the issue of crop diversification is always highlighted. And hence, we decided to have these regional thematic workshops on diversification of crops. Fortunately, unfortunately, we do have this advantage now of talking to each other while sitting in our own respective stations of posting, and that saves a lot of time for us also. And I'm so glad that this workshop has happened throughout the day. And I have now had the fortune of listening to the summary of the discussions in the last 45 minutes, 1 hour, that has been presented by different nodal officers for each of these sessions that have happened during the course of the day. It certainly has been very enlightening for me, because although Punjab, Haryana and parts of Western UP, they have been the engines of agriculture growth for the country as a whole. But I think what we need to really look at is that for a diverse country like ours, with different agroclimatic zones, with different soil types, with different vegetations and different agricultural practices all across the state, all across the country, it is imperative for us to look at the complete gamut of activities that happens in different states. And hence, in that context, what has been very enlightening for me is, for example, I was hearing the great work that Odisha has done in terms of millets. Millets, as you know, is a cereal which really has now again been taken into focus. We are going to celebrate the anniversary of millets very shortly. And whatever I have been reading about millets and talking to people about millets in general also, has revealed that not only is it a excellent substitute for nutritional value, but also that it helps in crop diversification, especially now when there is a lot of emphasis on organic products and also in areas where we do not have enough rainfall. When we were talking about crop diversification and we had this workshop for the northern region, what we realized was, and we came to this conclusion, that whatever strategy, whatever policy prescription that we all will jointly suggest to the government of India on crop diversification for the country as a whole, I think there are three questions that we must answer. The first is, why are we looking at crop diversification? And this answer could actually be different in Punjab, it could be different in Odisha, it could be different in Bihar, it could be different in Tamil Nadu, it could be different in Gujarat. Why is there a need for crop diversification? And to my mind, two things really would underline this answer of why. The first is that as a nation, we need to practice sustainable agriculture. We have all been overusing our natural resources, especially in a state like Punjab, where we have been over-exploiting our groundwater. That has taken a huge hit. We cannot allow it to go in an unsustainable manner, because future generations would find very hard to sustain themselves in case we exploit all the natural resources. Similarly, the use of chemical fertilizers, the overuse of chemical fertilizers and pesticides has had a huge impact on soil health. Thirdly, especially in areas, again, in the green evolution areas of Punjab, Haryana, and Western UP, and also now in certain parts of Madhya Pradesh, also we do experience this huge problem of stubble burning, which leads to air pollution. I mean, I'm sure all of us who have experienced it in the months of late October, November in parts of northern India would attest to that. So the why really is, to my mind, for all states, for all agronomic zones, should first of all must include the fact that we need to practice sustainable agriculture. And hence, our diversification strategy must encompass within it an element of sustainable agriculture. And the second and the most important part, to my mind, is the prosperity of our farmers. I think that is very important for us. The Prime Minister has been emphasizing the need to double the farmers' income. And as a nation, I think what we need to see is that even in areas where we have green evolution, the incomes of the farmers have plateaued. There has been a lot of distress amongst the farming community. Despite the fact that we have made, as a country, we have made strides in manufacturing and services, still a large segment of our population depends on agriculture. Hence, to my mind, whatever strategy is suggested, it must at least tick these two big boxes, which is that we are going to practice sustainable agriculture, and that whatever diversification we are suggesting shall lead to the prosperity of our farmers. Whether it is a farmer in Odisha, in Bihar, in UP, in Rajasthan, or in Punjab, these two boxes must be ticked, to my mind. The second part is of the strategy should be, what is it that we are suggesting when we are looking at diversification of crops? Are we trying to divert from cereals to, say, oilseeds or pulses? Are we looking at what we're talking about makhana farming in Bihar? Are we talking about animal husbandry and allied sectors? The what of crop diversification also is very important. Now, this cannot be the same for even all across the states. It could vary from district to district. I heard somebody talking about one district, one crop model also. Very, very important. We in Punjab also, we did identify certain key crops. And in fact, I must share with all of you that in Punjab, we have experimented and found it very successful to work around the concept of having horticultural estates, where we actually set up infrastructure and provide technical support to the farmers through these horticultural estates, which are set up within the clusters where that particular horticultural crop is grown. And these estates are actually run by societies which comprise the farmers themselves. They have common service centers where agricultural machinery can be hired. They have shops which are run by the society and provide inputs to the farmers, and also then post-harvest support in terms of whether it is a grading of waxing or grading units or packaging units. They are all part of these horticultural estates. They are very successful. And what we have now then been looking at is let there be a dominant crop. So there could be a district where probably citrus is a dominant crop, but then at the same time people are growing vegetables or are growing other fruits. So we support them in terms of horticultural estates. So the what of diversification is very important. And to my mind, if we cannot really suggest in terms of the district wise, but we should broadly be looking at the state as a whole, that this is the kind of broad strategy that this state or the other one or the other state would apply. And the third important question that I think must be answered in these deliberations is the how of it. You see, frankly speaking, ever since I got associated with the agriculture sector, I would be told that Punjab needs to diversify. Punjab needs to diversify. My question to all the academicians and all the experts would be that, well, you answered the question for me that why we need to diversify, or what is it that we need to diversify from and to. But the question is, how do you do it? The how of it is very important. A lot of times when policy prescriptions are given, especially by non-practitioners, fortunately for all of us, we are all practitioners. We are one way or the other associated directly with agriculture as it is being practiced. Whether you are in the university or whether you are in a department, we are all practitioners of agriculture and we are supporting the farmers. So the how of this diversification is very important. How are the resources going to come in? How is a particular strategy going to be applied? And to my mind, one need not really reinvent the wheel. We only need to go back and look at how we were able to become a food surplus nation from being a nation which was dependent upon foreign aid in the mid-60s. In the mid-60s, we were heavily dependent on food aid from foreign countries. But by mid-70s, we were a food surplus nation and we had self-sufficiency in food. And the reason for that, to my mind, was that there was a strategy that was followed in the Green Revolution areas. And it's not a small area. I mean, Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, it's a huge geographical area. And this geographical area, what it did was it carried out institutional reforms. It carried out, when I say institutional reforms, it means there were certain laws that were put in place. APMC Act, to my mind, was one of the key foundations of the Green Revolution, because it provided a very, very strong marketing infrastructure. Secondly, the physical infrastructure that was laid down during those days, whether it was in terms of the dams, the canals, the tube wells, all that physical infrastructure, plus, and most important, was the rural roads infrastructure that was there. It was backed up by very strong research from the Punjab Agriculture University. So you had the academia pitching in, you had the physical infrastructure, you had the institutional reforms, and prior to that, Punjab and Haryana had the consolidation of land holdings. So to my mind, what you see is that when you are looking at the how of it, it's not only about the resources, but it's also about the elements that go into it. There would be certain institutional reforms we'll have to carry out. There would be certain legal frameworks that we'll have to pitch in. And there would certainly be the creation of a physical infrastructure, whether it is in terms of creating cold chains, whether in terms of creating post-harvest technologies. Those things would have to be coming in, and food processing also. All in all, I would say that we need to follow a strategy, and for country as diverse as ours, there cannot be a single prescription to my mind. Different agroclimatic zones, different states would have to, adopt a different strategy. And perhaps as and when the government of India really puts in place a programmatic approach to implement this diversification of crops, there would have to be enough flexibility that should be given to the states in terms of how they want to do it and what is it that they really want to do it. This, to my mind, are the key elements. I'm sure during your deliberations you have looked at all these elements, and I do hope that the report and the inputs that we received from this regional thematic workshop from the eastern part of the country would certainly be very robust and would really help us in presenting a very strong and good policy prescription to the government of India in terms of crop diversification. Thank you all for participating during the whole day. And I would like to thank the host government for this. I'm grateful, and I really look forward to the deliberations as they reach me in terms of a document. And I'm sure we'll be able to incorporate your recommendations in a final report. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was worth hearing you, sir. It was not only informative, but inspiring too, sir. Thank you once again for kindly joining us and inspiring us, sir. Thank you very much. I thank you profusely from my own side and on behalf of my organizers, sir, for being with us in this noble occasion, sir. Thank you, sir. With this, I will back to my chairman of this session, Sri Sanjeev Chopra ji. Is the chairman of this session is Agriculture Production Commissioner and Additional Chief Secretary in Department of Agriculture and Farmers Empowerment. Sir, we are waiting for your kind words before we close in this valedictory section, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor Sarangi. I think it's been an excellent one day of deliberations from what I gather in the past 1 hour of presentation which we have seen. I think it's been an excellent day of deliberations. I would like to thank all the participants from Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, West Bengal. And I'm told that we also have participants from many FPOs, private players, different ICR institutions, and of course the OUAT, which has been the anchor institution. So I would like to thank all of you for having been such an active participant in this conference. I'd also like to thank my colleague and my very good friend, Chief Secretary Punjab, for giving his comments just now. I think he put it very succinctly and very clearly about what the diversification means, what, why, and how. I think it couldn't have been put more clearly and more simply. So I'd like to thank him for spending the time and attending these deliberations. I think for a group like this, I don't need to dwell on the rationale and the justification for crop diversification. Already, I think my previous speakers have spoken a lot about that. But just to maybe talk about 3-4 bullet points as to why we need to look at crop diversification. The first one, of course, is to reduce the uncertainties in agriculture for us, particularly for a small and marginal farmer, to bring the economic stability of the farming products, to conserve natural resources, as been mentioned by the Chief Secretary as well, and to double the farmer's income. So I think the proof of the pudding lies in the eating. So unless the farmer's income is doubled, I think all the efforts would really go in vain. And besides which, we also need to enhance the food and nutrition security by way of crop diversification. So I would just like to share about the Odisha perspective for a minute before I go on to other things. So the last estimates which were carried out sometime about 3-4 years back showed that Odisha produces about 75,000 crore worth of agriculture and allied output. Now here, if you see in terms of its distribution, paddy accounts for about 1/4 and vegetables account for about 1/4. So both paddy and vegetables account for about 1/4 of the total produce of agriculture sector in Odisha. And when you look at the crop area which they are occupying, so paddy is occupying about 60% of the crop area in Odisha, while vegetables occupy just about 13%. So this shows that the diversification which has happened in Odisha in the past, where maybe when we had joined service about 3 decades back, we found that primarily the crop was paddy. And there were very, very few instances we would find where people are cultivating other than paddy. And Rabi crop was very, very minimal in those days. But I think from those days to today, there has been kind of a dramatic shift. But not to say that this is something which we are very happy with. We would like to do much more. But if you see between 2002 and 2016, the farmers' income in Odisha grew more than 7 times. I think it's been, I think it may be some kind of a revelation for those of you who are not from Odisha, that in these 15 years, the farmer's income grew 7 times, whereas the agriculture produce doubled, more than doubled in Odisha. And I think one of the major reasons for this to happen in Odisha was the fact that we diversified our crop base. Of course, there were other reasons like higher monetization of the cereal produce, higher income from the livestock farming. But nevertheless, the stupendous growth that Odisha witnessed for these 5 years, 15 years, I would say, is primarily on account of crop diversification. So that I would say for Odisha, the launch pad is ready for us to capitalize on whatever good work has been done over the past 1.5 decades and do much more in the coming years. Now, Odisha has been following different strategies for crop diversification. I'd just like to mention in a minute what have been the mainstay of our policies in Odisha. So the first strategy that we've been adopting is to incentivize the farmers in terms of the planting material and other inputs. And of course, in terms of the education, the extension, and the awareness generation. So that I think is the crux of the entire thing, and that is the beginning of the process of crop diversification. The second strategy has been village level micro planning for procurement and marketing of the non-paddy produce, without which no farmer would have the courage to take up non-paddy. The third one has been the involvement of community-based organizations like women self-help groups, which have in a very big way contributed to the growth of the agriculture sector and the allied sector in Odisha over the past few years. And lastly, inclusion of the non-paddy produce in different government schemes such as the Anganwadis, the midday meal program, and also in the hostels of the SC/ST department, who are making available non-paddy produce in their diet. Now, coming to the one thing that I felt probably has not been addressed in this particular workshop is the requirement of the reforms, governance reforms, I would say, for bringing about this crop diversification as a policy. In case one is to take up crop diversification, many of the schemes of agriculture department you can do in a silo. So maybe in case I want to decide to do something, I could probably, in case I want to do something with paddy, I want to do something with some other cereals, there is a possibility I can do single-handedly in agriculture department. I can bring about some kind of a change and improvement. But this is not possible with regard to crop diversification. With crop diversification, unless there is a joined up government, unless there is a governance reforms where the implementation strategy is focused towards conversion, I think the keyword and the mantra for crop diversification strategies and policies as we deliberate in the next few months is on convergence. I think all departments have various schemes, but unfortunately, as it happens in government, we operate in silos, and that probably does not allow us to generate the kind of returns and just does not allow us to generate the kind of outcomes which we would like. So this particular strategy of converging our resources, converging our schemes, converging the activities of the different departments. If I think of what we have done probably in Millet Mission, I think Chief Secretary Punjab mentioned about the Millet Mission success in Odisha. It has only happened because of the activities, of the efforts which have been put in by different departments. All major departments have chipped in. Only then the Millet Mission has become a success. So for the crop diversification to become a success, similarly, all departments need to chip in, for which an adequate institutional mechanism has to be put in place where there is a synergy among the various departments. So I think that is something that we could also work upon in our recommendations as to how do we get the synergy, how do we get the convergence among different departments so that the objective of crop diversification can be realized. With regard to the policy that we will come up with, I would agree with my batchmate and colleague, the Chief Secretary Punjab, that a one-size-fits-all policy will not work for a state like Odisha, a country like India, where different states have the different priorities, and the what, why, and how of crop diversification has to be individually tailored as per the requirements of each state. While we may have a template, a very broad template we could generate at the end of the deliberations after all the regional workshops are over, but I would say that that particular template which we are generating has to be flexible enough to allow each state to customize that particular policy as per their requirement. I think that would be that would be key to the success of any initiative that we take going forward for crop diversification. So this is broadly what I want to share. I think a lot of good work has been done over the past few hours by all the colleagues who are present here in putting together their recommendations. I think I was personally benefited. I have just joined the sector very recently, but I was personally benefited by the rich deliberations that have taken place over the past few hours. I'd like to compliment all the participants and all the speakers for making the recommendations and making the suggestions, which I'm sure will go a long way in generating a very focused kind of a work plan, which can be presented then to the Government of India. So I wish all the participants good luck, and I hope that this particular initiative that we've taken jointly would become a success in the months and years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind deliberations and kind blessings and kind remarks, sir. And I also strongly believe that the day-long deliberation will definitely culminate into a very good recommendation that will be preparing to send to Government of India, sir, with all the efforts that we have made in a one-day-long workshop. Sir, with kind permission, before I close the session today in the valedictory session, may I request Sri Lohit Kumar Lenkaji, a Director of Horticulture, to offer formal vote of thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir. A very good evening to all. Again, this is my proud privilege to be part of this day-long regional thematic workshop on crop diversifications. And as sir summarized in a very, concise way, that throughout the day we started discussing from green revolution to crop diversification. I again remember the phrases used by our respected Vice Chancellor OUT, that green revolution and crop diversification. The way green revolution could bring a see change in our agriculture scenario of the country in the early 1960s. The same way we also will have this crop diversification program in 2022. And as Chief Secretary sir from Punjab rightly pointed out that after listening all these panel discussions and their observations on crop diversification, he rightly pointed out on the why, how, and what aspects of this crop diversification program. And everybody knows that crop diversification is the necessity, and this is the time where exactly India needs to diversify its cropping systems so that sustainable growth can be ensured for the coming generations. And our chairman, sir, has rightly pointed out on the governance reforms aspects of crop diversifications, the convergence mechanisms for making this crop diversification program successful in the coming years. And in addition to that, the success story of crop diversification in the state of Odisha being propelled by involvement of community-based organizations, then women self-help groups, and micro level planning at the village level. So these are the essential ways of looking into crop diversification aspects besides having the inputs or feedbacks and suggestions from this crop diversification from different stakeholders as we have listened. So this is my proud privilege again to offer my vote of thanks to our esteemed chairman, sir, for his kind presence and kind suggestions for making this program successful and suggesting the ways forward for this crop diversification program for the whole country. I offer my vote of thanks to the respected Chief Secretary Punjab, sir, for his way of looking at crop diversification program for the whole country and the ways we are supposed to implement this program in our respective states. I offer my thanks to all the chairpersons of different sessions being soldiered during this day-long workshops and their valuable inputs as well as suggestions for making this crop diversification program a grand success for the country in the coming days. I offer my vote of thanks to Dr. P.K. Sarangi from OUAT, the moderator who actually from the from 10 to this time as closely associated with these workshops and has guided in his own way and organized this workshop in a very systematic way and summarized everything whatever has been paid by different panelists in different sessions. I offer my vote of thanks to all the esteemed participants from all the states like West Bengal, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Bihar, and Andhra Pradesh, who shared their views and suggestions and the learnings from their states for making this crop diversification program for the whole country as a grand success. At the last, I offer my vote of thanks to the members from our Vasan teams who have been closely associated with these programs and the officers from the Department of Agriculture and Farmers Empowerment who have really worked hard for making this regional thematic workshop a success for us. Thank you one and all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your kind words of thanks. Sir, we are on the screen. There are my teammates which are beyond screen, sir. They have been working the entire day long. The Citran team, our department officers, my colleagues, with folded hands on behalf of organization, on behalf of Lanka, sir, on behalf of everybody. With folded hands, I thank you all whose name has been taken or not taken. But for your participation, but for your contribution, today we can proudly and successfully complete this session. I will simply end up with the saying, Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve shantu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukham bhavet. Thank you very much, sir. Kindly allow me to close this session here with kind permission, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hello, Dr. Mansingh. Hello, Dr. Mansingh.